Newspapers for the best stories are two opposites from the comedy circuit: knowledgeable, insightful, and sane Steve and Alan, and Lewis Schaefer.
Fair point.
See what I did there? How you guys doing? You all right?
What I did there with the facial expression.
I know, it was very good.
I knew you were going to say that.
Did you? Okay, sorry. Is that because you read the script before? How are you both doing? You're both looking very smart.
We'll make an effort, you know. You're wearing a tie. I thought we'd better step
We're all gone tied up.
I don't think that's about... It's how the British call it, looking smart.
Okay.
Smart means looking intelligent.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it takes in this country is a tie.
Is wear a tie.
In America, you're like a genius, right?
I'm wearing the same tie that Mark Dolan was wearing before, but it's not his tie. It's a different tie.
Okay. Well, okay, then the... straight away. Right. Okay, we are going to zip through the front pages first of all. The Times: hundreds of schools still in dark over safety fears. The Daily Mail: councils allow staff to work from the beach. The Guardian: school crisis, no extra cash for repairs, says Treasury. The Mirror: my promise to workers. Financial Times: Russia's banks propped up by Chinese cash after sanctions. And The Star: trick or heat. Those are your front pages. Let's have a closer look. First of all, we are going to go with The Times, Steve.
Front page of The Times tells us, I mean, well, there's the headline: migrant crossings approach 900 a day. I don't know if that picture's linked to it, but he looks like he probably did this film on his own. But
he's very muscly.
Yeah, hundreds of schools still in dark over safety fears. This is about the crumbling, this bubbly concrete. I was reading somewhere online today saying that some of it can be up to 70% air. That's not bubbly concrete. That's slightly concretey air at that stage. And it's a worry. You don't know if your school might have the risk of something just collapsing. It's reached its end of its lifespan. Yesterday, we were chatting about who knew what when. So I bothered to research it today. So in the 60s, they was used in the 50s and 60s. In the 60s, people had concerns about whether it should be used. In the 1980s, they first found out that there were some structural issues. Same thing happened in the 90s. Early 2000s, they did a report into it where they actually went along and analysed it and went, yep, here's your structural problems. 2019, a school collapsed in Gravesend, or a bit of it does. 2021, they sent around these questionnaires to schools to say, let's have a look to find out if you've got this thing that needs sorting out. 3 days before the schools were meant to open, something happened. So you definitely could have done something earlier at all of those opportunities.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that history lesson of aerated concrete. What do you think? I mean, it seems like a lot of people, for them, it's all about blame, but really, Lewis, surely it's also about, like, our children being safe. I mean, your children are past the school age, so you probably don't care about this, right?
I probably wouldn't have cared even if they were during the school age. But
that's why she got custody.
I was making a joke, Steve. I mean, Josh. I mean, this is the weirdest show. I feel like it's Sunday. I feel like, what you know...
It feels like a Sunday.
It feels like a Sunday to me.
Yeah,
anyway, the point is, who are you blaming, Steve? Who are you blaming that they made this announcement 3 days before the school? So the government made the announcement, but where was somebody else demanding that an announcement be made 3 years ago when the school collapsed, or 20 years ago when they first realized
It's the government's job to do that. As soon as this questionnaire that they sent round, pull your finger out and get it done. Act upon it sooner than thinking, oh, well, all of a sudden the schools are about to be open. Let's shut some of them down until we go along and reinforce this reinforced autoclave area.
This is a democracy and an open society. And when you have an open society, you expect political parties and organizations to make us think about stuff before the day before.
So you're basically blaming the opposition for not holding the Tories to account, not the Tories for just not doing their job.
For not holding the government, the state, to account for this. Yes, I mean...
Well, they're holding them to account now. Tomorrow, Commons is opening, and Labour are going to have a field day with this, surely.
But where was this? These buildings have been around for 100 years using this method.
Since the 60s,
No, since the 60s in this country, but it was they started in the 1920s in Sweden. I did a little research, too.
Ooh,
in the 1920s.
Look at both of you caring about your jobs.
In Sweden. In Sweden, and I knew that autoclaving meant it was heat. It's good for... This whole building system is really good for the environment because concrete is one of the biggest producers of CO2, from what I know. Not that I believe that CO2 causes climate change, but a lot of people do. Sorry, I don't believe it.
I'm surprised you believe that CO2 exists.
You know what? I've never seen it.
There's no direct evidence. You don't have a lived experience, do you, with CO2?
I've been told.
It's the one gas you can detect.
Mate, it's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Literally what you're saying right now is CO2.
No,
I
I detect an absence of oxygen.
No, that's the thing, you don't. The human body doesn't detect an absence of oxygen.
Do you know what the people...
You know what?
People out there hate you, Steve. They hate your intelligence. They hate your wise guy attitude. They like me because I'm man of the people. Yes, I come from a better country than them.
Look, we've been slightly knocked off target straight at the first story. Let's go with The Guardian. Come on, Lewis, keep us on target.
Well, it's the same story that the House of there's no extra cash for repairs, say the Treasury, because... You know, it's like what they say about spending money. You know, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. After a while, you're talking about real money. There's so much things that are collapsing. The whole country is collapsing. Nothing personal. It's still a fantastic country, but they don't have the money to make the repairs for these schools. So it's like, well, what's going to happen?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a slight misnomer here. They're taking the money from budgets that have already been allocated, Steve, right?
Yeah, it's not the repairs and the reinforcement. So if a school identifies that it's got this, you then have to not use it for a few days while someone goes in and reinforces it. It's knocking the can down the road even further, so the cost will continue to build up. But the problem, I think, is about the fact that it's a great way to build, you said, right?
Yeah.
It's a cheap way to build, and by doing it cheap, the short-termism, let's have a building that lasts for 30 years. Let's have a building that doesn't last as long as the TV show EastEnders.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're going to have problems further down the road, and that's what we're doing now. The money is going to, it might not be extra new money, so it comes from elsewhere in the budget. That means everything suffers because we couldn't build properly.
And in a lot of cases, it's actually cheaper just to have built a new building in the first place. But for me, the issue is that the budget for the emergency measures, they're saying that has to be taken from the schools' budgets themselves. That's a problem because if the school doesn't have the budget, it's back to the Zoom calls and whatever. And that's where I have a massive issue. If any child loses 1 hour of in-the-flesh
But they're going
teaching,
to. They're going to. And I think there's two stories behind the stories, which is one, it's just one more excuse for the state to build because the building is the biggest industry of this world, having the Chinese people build all those apartment houses. It's just an excuse for like tearing down these schools and building some more. It's going to make the development.
Hopefully these ones will last 10 years. Right, Mirror, where are they going with, Steve?
My promise to workers. This is Keir Starmer. So previously on this show, everyone's saying Keir Starmer's not saying anything. He's not putting his colours anywhere near a mast.
Yeah.
And finally, we've got a bit of a promise. And the hilarious thing about this is he's just sounding like the Conservative Party would normally try and sound. I won't be raising your income tax. I'm the guy of low tax. I won't be hammering you like that other party. The Tories, what a flipped upside-down world we seem to be living in, where his promises are all about the economy, because ordinarily that's the area they're weak. If you want to attack Labour, you bring up some track record about economy. The Conservatives have managed to create a situation where Keir Starmer can look like the guy who's going to be good with the money.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an incredible transformation, though. I mean, Lewis, a few years ago, people just assuming that he was just going to be this interim opposition leader, but now the fact that he's turned things around so quickly and detoxified the Labour Party is kind of amazing, though. Well,
he's been hanging out with Tony Blair, and I think what this is this guy Starmer. These guys have been out of power for so long, and they want to win. It's very similar to when Tony Blair came into power, and he'll say anything. They want to win so badly that they're willing to stop being the Labour Party, and that's the same. That's what killed the Tories. The Tories. This is what I think. I'm not sure I'm 100% right, but I think the Tories, they stopped being Tories lately. And
arguably for 13 years, they've still managed to mess up the country.
You can mess up the country from the left and from the right.
True. Yeah. That's very true.
So these people, maybe these people will be more Tory than the Tories, and
all we can hope is that they mess up the country less. That's what we're going for.
Or in a different way.
Yeah, just spread it around a bit. I'll tell you what, the worst thing the Tories ever did was when they were in opposition, they never mentioned this concrete stuff, because apparently you blame the opposition for this.
That's what you do. That's what I hear, the word on the street. Anyway, finally, we're just going to very quickly go with the Daily Mail. Lewis, basically you can just work from the beach, can't you?
Well, why not? If they're letting people work from home, what's the difference where they take the computer from? They don't know what the person's doing at home, as long as people are paying attention to what they're doing. We're leading to... So, someday there won't be any like council workers who will live in the council. Maybe even the garbage people will work from overseas or something, because we've got AI and we've got computers and internet and telephones. And
so they should basically be on the beach and enjoy their job whilst they still have it.
if they're doing the work fine.
Okay, I mean, what do you think, Steve? Does it matter? I mean, we're not talking about, it's on the front page, but we're talking about 1,000 people over the last couple of years or something?
Yeah, it's a change in the way that we're working because the technology's there. It feels like, yeah, there's some flaws with it, but you're a bit of a Luddite if you think it should never happen. Obviously, I'm biased. I do a radio show from the shed these days, so I love the idea of working from home. There are some downsides. The perks will be one of the ways that you get someone to take the job. Maybe you can pay them less because you give them all this freedom to work from Skegness Beach or whichever your favourite beach is.
I mean, let's just outsource all these jobs to Marbella Beach. That's what I'm going to do, and I'll move that. That's it for part one, but coming up, we have immigration, mosques and masks. Why mess with a winning formula? See you in 2.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Monday to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Josh Howie, joined by science symbol Steve N. Allen and sex symbol Lewis Schaefer.
Oh, that's better.
There we go. Right. Let's go first to Monday's Independent, Steve, where Labour are up to the old tricks again, trying to win an election.
How dare they? Labour revives attack ads, claiming concrete scandal shows Rishi Sunak does not want schools to be safe. So, you know the format, that little graphic that they had, you can just swap the text on it these days. It's really easy, isn't it? They brought out another one about this concrete thing where they're trying to do, instead of blaming the government for not getting it sorted, they're trying to blame Rishi Sunak. Because when he was Chancellor, there was a cut of funding that would have helped it. But still, two things. It never seems to play well for Labour when they play dirty. It's like their fan base doesn't want this type of politics. But also, in the actual thing, it says, do you think your child's school should be safe? Before answering, Rishi Sunak doesn't.
Yeah, well, there we go. We've got the image there.
I mean, that's not the right interpretation. Best case scenario is he wanted to save money. He wouldn't be sitting there going, no, I don't want them to be safe.
Yeah, I want them all to just suffer.
Just learn about a Class 2 lever when you have to pry some concrete off Timmy's legs. That's not really... He's cheap. The worst thing you could say is cheap. It's not that he hates kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, speaking of hating kids, Lewis, what do you make of this? I mean, do these kind of ads backfire? Do they work?
Well, I don't know. I don't really understand the British people that strongly, but I think Rishi Sunak actually strikes me as kind of a likable guy for a really rich guy. I mean, he should be totally hateable, but you kind of feel sorry for him because he's kind of short and he's got a rich wife. He's probably under the cosh, and being prime minister isn't good enough for him. So you feel bad for him. So
I think you've just written the Tories' rebuttal to this. Come on, he's a nice guy. I mean, he's short.
His trousers don't fit.
He's under the thumb.
He's under the thumb of his wife. Everybody knows his wife is a power person. I think the thing about the Tories is they try to be presented as a mean. Tories have always been the mean party, the nasty party, and so.
Well, they've also been the party in power.
I don't want to admit this, but I think Steve is right.
Oh, wow. OK, there we go. Monday's Mail next. And I'd guess you'd protest if you can get a facial, Lewis, wouldn't you?
I don't want to do this story. There's hundreds of furious villagers protest at a luxury spa was shut down to house immigrants, becoming a second asylum seeker hotel in the area, stoking fear. What a headline this is. I mean, really.
So why don't you want to do the story then?
I don't want to do the story because it's these people they don't want to know that there's an immigrant problem because it really tugs at people's heartstrings.
I don't think you know our audience very well, Lewis.
No, they don't want to know it now because they get so angry. I can just see them seething, and they need to go to sleep. I was going to say they need to go to work tomorrow, but most of our people are not workers.
Of course they are. What are you saying? They say they're layabouts? You're really insulting our viewership today.
How to make friends and influence people.
I'm in a mood. I'm in a really bad mood today. They're clipping. What are they clipping coupons, as they would say in America? They're rich people who have pensions and whatever. The people who've come up to me they're lovely people, but they're like they don't look like they're working. Anyway, can I finish the story?
Okay, that's also where you
didn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, but yes, finish the story, please.
The story is that this is happening in Wigan, and they took a grade two, the government bought renting a grade 2 listed wedding venue called Kelly Court Standish, which is near Wigan, and I didn't realize there was anything nice near Wigan.
Wow. You are really just going to alienate. I mean, see, this is interesting because, as it says, hundreds of furious protesters and whatever. Yeah. Yet the narrative is that these protesters are somehow racist. Or some media outlets might try and present it. There was an anti-racist counter-demonstration there. Yeah. But the interesting thing is, I think the narrative is slightly changing now, is that their MP is Lisa Nandy, Labour MP. She's protesting this. They already have another site close by, which is also used to house immigrants there. And it isn't as simple as that, as what people are trying to make out, right?
Well, I partially agree that, there's some NIMBYism here, but that's not necessarily wrong. It might be right if a local area is impacted by such a large number of something.
How is it impacted?
Well, no, before I even get there, none of it matters. It's a free market thing. This is what this story totally misses, that it's a privately owned hotel, so it's allowed to do whatever it wants with its hotel. This is not an issue of whether governments think it should happen or not. I think McDonald's hotels own it, and they've said, look, we don't earn enough money from this spa hotel. Yeah. You turn it over and make money from...
No. You have people who've had their events cancelled. There's the possibility, I believe, jobs have been lost. I mean, for me, what's interesting about it is this immediate idea by, like I say, some people in the media, where these people protesting, they must be racist because they're anti-immigrants. It just isn't as simple as that. And the interesting thing is, and I've just come back from America, In New York, and my lefty friends out in New York, there's a lot of protests out there, a lot of ill feeling towards the immigration issues that they have there. You see video footage in Chicago of black Chicago natives protesting at these council meetings and town meetings because their services are also being overtaken by immigrants. So I think this traditional narrative seems to be shifting.
Can I just say this? I agree with you, Josh, and I think Steve is wrong in this case.
We're back on track.
There we go. Let's get straight off this then before he changes his mind.
No, because can I just point this out? Is that the government? It isn't a libertarian issue. It isn't a free market because the government stepped in to basically buy the thing.
No, it's Serco.
Serco is acting for the government.
Okay, great. On to the Times now, and have the Tories solved the asylum crisis, Steve?
Migrant interviews to be cut from 7 hours to 45 minutes to empty asylum hotels. Look, every time we've talked about this issue, I've always said, clear the backlog. Stop giving us distractions. Stop pointing at a barge. Get the backlog sorted. And they're doing it, and I'm saying good. Now, these stories are like, oh, surely you can't make a 7-hour interview, do it in 45 minutes. Oh, we're going to have people...
You just got to speak really fast.
They'll get AI to do it. ChatGPT is probably doing it. But there'll be some cases when it's a clear yes or a clear no. Do those quickly, and you will whoop through a big percentage of the cases. The ones that take longer, the protracted ones, then there'll be fewer people left in hotels. This actually is a step in the right direction.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, and I've said the same thing. Get rid of the backlog. It's the biggest ever been, and all the stuff. They've hired these extra workers. They've made the process simpler. Some countries they're just doing that, but essentially automatically. But the interesting thing now is the narrative's going to change, Lewis, because now they're saying we're pushing the problem further down to the local councils, because once people are granted asylum and they're here, suddenly the local councils
have to deal with it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is the end of the day story. If they had just stopped people from coming into the country, they wouldn't have to worry about a backlog.
And we wouldn't need to worry about you.
Well, it's like amazing. I remember when I applied to live in this country. I applied for leave to remain indefinitely, and I didn't even know what that term meant. I said, I don't want to leave to remain. I want to remain to remain. I don't want to leave. I don't. And I remember the guy in the New York consulate, and he asked me. He sat me down at the table. My interview with them took about 10 minutes, and I told him I wanted to go to England to be with my new bride, and he looked at me and he went, "Why?"
Times have changed. Okay, Lewis, has the Mail story given you ideas about how to get £2 million?
You know what? I can't do these stories anymore. They're just so depressing. I mean, in the beginning, it was like, I'm so happy to be on TV. Now this is bumming me out. Mosque has decades-long history of alleged extremism and hate speech, including an imam who gave a sermon and had to stone women correctly. Had to stone them correctly. They were handed a £2 million grant. And
it's a problem. Stoning in women incorrectly is a real issue.
Well, it probably goes against the great books. Anyway, this is the Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham, and they were once featured in a documentary about how to kill the kafir, or kafir, whatever it is, which is a derogatory term.
They're based on about you, Lewis.
The fact is that we can't talk about it.
You don't want to talk about it.
You talk about it.
Okay, I will talk about it.
You get the Ofcom
They're talking about violent jihad. The crazy thing is that this footage of it calling for the correct way to stone it, this was on their YouTube channel. Yeah. They're promoting it. Yeah. And then suddenly it gets pulled out. And the other thing that's interesting, this is a Mail article, they're trying to it feels like they're putting the blame on Labour. Now, £77,000 has already gone to them. There's further £2 million. And the idea was it was to develop youth centres. That's a great idea. That's been a massive failure, I believe, of this government, is not to invest in our youth, to give them time to do so. But the idea that this sort of £2 million
This is not investing in our youth. It's investing in those youth.
Well, in
people who are going to this.
Well, certainly, if the ideology is going to be continued, it's not. This is the point.
But of course, the ideology, because all religious organizations are promoting the continuation.
Mate, you've never been to my synagogue. It's just literally about making chicken soup and making challah.
And you're saying that's not about continuing the...
Anyway, stoning techniques are terrible at his synagogue. It's a mistake. The article does really try and say, at some point someone looking into it was some former Labour something. This is the Department for Culture, Media and Sports, and I guess the sports is because is stoning a category? I don't know. Is this a Nadine Dorries thing? I looked through it, trying to find the time when it actually happened, because it could be a Nadine Dorries one. Look, clearly they shouldn't get the money. If ever anyone shouldn't get their hands on construction materials, it's people who like stoning.
Very good.
But I did.
Don't worry, it'll be aerated concrete, so it would be very light. Very light, yeah. 70% air.
Did you find out the correct way to stone bar? I didn't watch the video, but I read the details.
No, what is the correct way?
Apparently, you're meant to bury the women to the up to the waist.
Yeah.
To protect their decency.
Well, that's important.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You're full of facts. More mail now. And Steve, does this person need to wear a mask to hide their shame?
Dr. Fauci admits that there is a lack of evidence showing the dreaded COVID-19 mask mandate stopped the pandemic, but, it says here, wants us to cover up anyway as cases spike. There's a bit of heavy lifting in that part of the sentence. He's not calling for a mandate. He's saying, yeah, you know, wear a mask if you want. And that's a freedom that people in America have, I guess. I know he's just hated because of how he flip-flopped.
No.
He defends some of the flip-flopping, saying, at the time, the decision I made was appropriate for the information I had. Obviously, retrospectively, it all looks like there's some flip-flopping going on there. We have a dissenter over here.
Lewis, this is a report from someone at University of Oxford whose research concluded there is no evidence that masks made any difference whatsoever.
This, you know what? First of all, there's no evidence. And not only, this is not some guy at University of Oxford. There's been dozens and dozens of studies all across. There was dozens of studies even before this COVID thing. And Mr. Fauci is not hated because he flip-flopped. Mr. Fauci was hated because he's a tool of the vaccine-mongering, COVID-believing World Economic Forum haters of human beings.
Okay, we're going to go to the break now, and we've made it.
You have to denounce what I just said.
Did you get the bingo? I got it. Brilliant.
The fact is that Anthony Fauci should be put on trial, and if he's found guilty, he should be put in jail or worse.
Okay.
Or worse. He's the representative of everything that's bad about the last 3 years.
I didn't say globalist. I'm sorry. I
didn't miss globalist. Oh, there we go. Everyone, put down your short glasses now. We've made it halfway, but come back for some unhappy female spies and extremely dangerous pensioners. See you then.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. It is ending on a fairly fine note for many of us. A lot of clear intervals through the evening and overnight away from the far north of Scotland. That is going to remain a bit breezier and cloudier. Some mist and fog patches will form underneath those clear skies, particularly for eastern England, southeast England, but also Northern Ireland turning quite murky first thing on Monday morning. For most of us, though, it will be a fairly mild, warm start, temperatures around 15 degrees Celsius in a lot of our towns and cities. Once that mist and fog does eventually clear its way off, Monday promises to be a pretty glorious day for many of us. A good swathe of sunshine for the vast majority of the UK. It will be a bit breezy around the West Country, gusty along some coastlines here, and always cloud lingering across the very far north of Scotland, with drizzly outbreaks of rain for Shetland as well. But elsewhere in that sunshine, feeling very warm, widely into the mid-20s, if not the high 20s across southern England and Wales. High pressure sticks with us into the middle part of the week, but it reorientates itself, so we tap into a southerly airflow that allows us to feed in some even warmer conditions from continental Europe. So on the grand scheme of things, Tuesday looks like another pretty fine day for many of us. Again, still quite blustery across the southwest, some higher base cloud pushing in across Northern Ireland as well, turning the sunshine hazier, and cloud just still lingering across parts of Orkney, the Isle of Lewis. But still plenty of mats of sunshine to be had, and temperatures peaking around Wednesday and Thursday over 30 degrees Celsius.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate. Both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton, for 2 hours packed full of unfiltered opinions, unique takes, and fiery debates. I guarantee you blockbuster guests and exclusive reporting with no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I think there is a culture of collusion, quite frankly.
And no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio, and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, where we've just spent the last couple of minutes learning how Lewis has such a beautiful jaw. Thank you so much for that information.
Yeah,
tweet him about it afterwards to find out.
Well, I'm tweeting about this right now. I'm just getting people.
Well, put down your phone and let's get on with this. The job in hand.
Okay.
Going straight into Monday's mail.
This is the job. Is letting people know we're on the air.
This is your job. Will
Lewis
your
Schaefer.
homeland been calling you to enlist, Lewis?
No. The answer is no, no, no. This is not even a non-story. This is a non-future story. It's Republicans increasingly serious about plan to invade Mexico to crush cartels because they're bringing in fentanyl, which is like a heroin opiate substitute, and it's so powerful, and it's killing 100,000 people a year. It's a total nightmare, and they're taking Chinese drugs, and they're taking Chinese precursor chemicals, and they're combining them in Mexico, and we've got to do something to stop it. But the Republicans, who are not in power, because only the President of the United States can send troops in America. So the idea that the Republicans can do anything right now when they don't have the president.
So the idea is maybe they're holding the Democrats to account.
Asking them, right, so what does that mean? So they're saying to them, send troops. The fact is the Republicans are more concerned about an open border, which is facilitating.
Okay, but arguably the stuff would get in anyway. Ron DeSantis is basically
not
saying...
necessarily.
No, but Ron DeSantis is saying day one he would send troops. I mean, how realistic is this? Because the Mexican president is basically saying this is just politics.
Yeah. This is, it's against international law, and it's a great soundbite, isn't it? It's talking tough, and at some point not following through and finding a reason to do it. Trump did this with the lock her up. Oh, never got around to locking her up. Let's send missiles and blow up parts of Mexico. Oh, we won't get around to it. But if we talk tough now, we might get the votes.
Well, they did it in that documentary Sicario. I believe that other thing, Clear and Present Danger.
They say, well, you know what it is? Sending troops to the border, if you're sending troops in, it probably means that people aren't going to be trying to cross over the border at the same time. So it'll solve that problem. Was I wrong about saying the Republicans are not serious? Because I've heard nothing about this, and I am totally...
Yeah, but that's why they wrote an article to tell you about it.
But you know what? The Telegraph is becoming more and more like The Guardian every single day. I do. I think so. I'm noticing it. You'd think that they'd be like...
Okay. Right. I mean, it could be that they're taking Republican nomination presidential hopefuls at their own words. I think it's 4 of the people up for it are basically saying exactly the same stuff.
And that was their first
mistake. But that doesn't mean they're serious about it. It's an election campaign.
No, you're right. They all are.
And it can't be done.
Okay, more mail. And when even Gandhi fails your purity test, perhaps the problem is you, Steve.
Me?
Not you specifically, just whoever's holding these purity tests.
Tonight. Downing Street fights Labour's drive to remove Winston Churchill, Horatio Nelson and Gandhi from road names. This is in Wales and...
Welsh Labour are like the extreme Labour.
They're going for it. But... It's a stupid idea because don't hand an easy win to a party that has said out loud the quiet bit of, we want to fight the next election on culture wars. Don't give them these culture war wins. Don't try and even if you want to do these things, shut up about it until the next election. So it very much seems like it would not achieve much, even if they're trying to do it through good means. It's just going to be exactly what Conservatives want.
Yes, exactly. But, I mean... Lewis, there's legislation, I believe, there's a bill introduced in England that actually is actually quite a democratic thing where the road itself has to have 2/3 of the residents voting if they want to change the names. They haven't put this through for Wales, but that's quite a good idea, isn't it?
I hadn't heard about that, but I think
it's on page 2 of the article. They're more than one page.
Wow. This is one of these stories that just depresses the hell out of me because You know what's happened when I read things like this? What? I actually start liking this country. And I start remembering what is so good about this country. And when you see people who are hating on this place, hating on Winston Churchill, Horatio Nelson, or other great English people like Mahatma Gandhi. You had to just step on my
joke. I'm sorry, mate. Oh, that's terrible.
That was
one joke.
That was
my God.
One joke.
Well, you know what? I actually think... I mean, I'm very much against the Welsh changing their road name. Yeah, because these are the only people I can pronounce. Hey, I have a joke as well. Right, Lewis, according to this Mail story, a female 007 would more likely be 006.
Yeah, 006. No, 006.7. Because they'd be being paid 11% less or 7%.
Let me do the link again then.
It's in the Daily Mail. It says the female spies bugged. They say there's a gender gap that says British Secret Service reveal that women are paid less to do the same frontline roles as men. And a lot of the people being paid less, 11% at Listening Center, the GCHQ, General, whatever that is, headquarters. And the women are being paid less for listening. But that's what women like to do. They're a bunch of busybodies and eavesdroppers.
Well, I was wondering how you would get your misogyny in there.
Yeah, this is misogyny. And the fact is, the story was very short. I don't know the details, but the details are probably the women work fewer hours, they work different jobs, they don't ask for raises the way men ask for raises.
I mean, yes, okay. We've seen this before where there's this disparity of wages, and it turns out it's for these factors. But I mean, I'm sure that you agree, Steve, that if they are doing the same job, of course, they should be getting
Yes, and the article says, but you're right, it's a very short article. I mean, it would be, because if ever there's going to be some people who are quite secretive about what they do, it's the spies. So no wonder we don't have all the details. I hope it is that, though, that if it is exactly the same jobs, because we've had court cases like the Asda one where cashiers were saying, we do the same thing as the people in the warehouses. No, you don't. No, if I had to pick where I had to work, the freezing cold warehouse or sitting inside going beep, I know which one I'd rather do, so maybe they're...
Do they actually say beep when they do the job?
Well, I can hear it quite a lot. I'm not sure where
but also, I mean, there is an argument, of course, that the female Secret Service agents, frontline staff, should be getting paid more because they seem to be a lot riskier of being, like, painted all in gold or covered in oil. Thank you.
That's a movie reference.
Yeah. Thank you so much for explaining the humour there, Lewis. What would I do without my shat man in the corner? Tuesday's Telegraph has Yorkshire police covering themselves in glory, Steve.
No. Keep males out of women-only spaces. Sticker, picture investigated as hate crime. This headline's actually really bad because all the info's... It's like a German sentence, the verb's at the end of the word. So this is a pensioner who was questioned because she took a picture of a sticker on a poster.
OK.
Didn't post the picture. This is getting confusing. Yeah. So just took a picture, didn't put the sticker on the poster, took a picture of something, didn't post it on social media, and agreed with it. But somehow this then gets investigated by the same police who've recently done such great hits as having that issue with the autistic girl who said that police officer looked like her lesbian nana, which surely it's a matter of opinion. We never saw the picture of the nana, did we? I think that really...
Yeah, I mean, she might have looked very young. Might have been a compliment.
Absolutely spot on, yeah. So the worrying thing about this, though, is that it wasn't the putting the sticker on. It was simply taking a picture of it. If the person taking the picture of it was against the sticker, sure, the police never would have said anything.
Yes, I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, we're talking, it's West Yorkshire Police, we should name and shame. Also, they've got the second highest crime rate in the country. 90% of their crimes are unsolved. The fact that they had to track this person down using CCTV, surely, Lewis, this is an unbelievable use of resources, let alone their human right to take a photo of something.
Well, I mean, this country is descending into as in America, is descending into a police state. It's, we here are constantly being badgered by Ofcom. There's total...
No, it's you, Lewis. Lewis, quite specifically, you, 90%.
Well, let them badger me. It's total censorship, because I'm the only person who speaks his mind here. But it's total censorship, and this is horrible, because it's not even the woman desecrated a poster that was there. She didn't write on it. She didn't put a label on it. She just took a picture of somebody else did something.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I am slightly worried because I took pictures in Edinburgh because someone's been spray painting around there. Tony, won't say the surname, is a paedophile. And whoever's done that has spray painted it loads of places and they can't spell paedophile right. So I took loads of pictures of it. Yeah. Now I'm a bit worried. Taking a picture of stuff will get you arrested.
Just don't go to West Yorkshire. Right, that's all for part 3, but coming up in the final section, we have ancient apes, life after death, and what is a swikini? Stick around to find out.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and it's the Telegraph to kick us off, and everything we knew about humanity is wrong, Steve.
Yes, discovery of 8.7 million year old ape rewrites story. The ape doesn't do the rewriting of the history here. Unearthed fossilized remains in Turkey suggest that human origins may actually lie in Europe. So before these early hominids, we kind of thought they were all in Africa, and then they move out, and this doesn't prove but may suggest there could be some early hominids moved to Europe, Turkey. Not that far in. And then maybe went back. I'm less impressed. I know I normally love a sciencey story, but this does not seem to be moving any needle for me.
It isn't moving. Sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah, what?
This is a late story. This has been known for like 20, 30 years. What happened is, according to Dr. Richard Johnson, you should look this up, and he's talking about uric acid.
No way, that's a real name.
Richard Johnson.
That is
Richard Johnson.
Richard
I sign into hotels.
Hope he's not American.
That's true. I just realized what a funny name that is. It's that the story of humans is that the great apes. There used to be 20 species of great apes, and they moved up north when it was warm, and they lived in the north in Europe, and then it got cold, and the only apes that survived were ones who developed uric acid, which enabled them to eat.
Okay, well done. I don't know if either of you have truly covered this story properly, because there's an argument. Well, traditionally it's been thought that the cradle of humanity was Africa. Now, 1.5 million years before the apes that we have seen in history that humans evolved from, we're now seeing those apes, the precursors to them, originating actually more in Europe.
So, no. That's what
this story says.
That's what this story says. But the actual truth is that the great it kind of helped in Europe because some great apes went up to Europe. They developed this ability to eat sugar, to metabolize fructose and alcohol, and then when it got colder, they moved down.
There's no evidence of any apes in Africa before the 8.7 million. Yeah. Anyway, look, you know what? You better read the Telegraph article yourself, I think. The Daily Star now, unfortunately, we have our very own Dr. Schaefer to tell us which conspiracy theory here is true.
This is this guy, Avi Loeb, who's basically... I mean, I don't like to say anybody's been ridiculed, but the truth is he's an astrophysicist. Anybody who's a physicist I don't respect. Nothing personal. I don't respect it at all.
Wow.
It says that they found a meteor that was in the ocean and it had different stuff than what's on Earth. But that's to be expected, because the fact is that meteors enter our solar system all the time and they land on Earth, and they're going to bring stuff from outer space.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also essentially saying that it could be a spacecraft, an alien spacecraft.
Yeah, coulda, shoulda, maybe, possibly.
A lot of heavy lifting. Firstly, I'd like to correct the besmirchment of my reputation. I was a chemist, not a physicist. So,
same difference.
Chemist,
physicist,
Love the chemist. The physicist never got to touch a lady.
I'm sorry, Steve, because I think chemistry is perhaps the most respectable of all the sciences.
We're handy at parties. We turn it with all that neat alcohol. But the point is, there's no way this is from a spacecraft. Okay. Because if you can invent a spacecraft that can travel faster than the speed of light and then arrive at your destination and have a little look round, stuff ain't gonna fall off. Their level of technology surely is that aliens aren't going to be leaving small balls falling off their space.
All right, well, I've learned something. Thank you so much, Dr. Steve N. Allen. Chemist, fine. An actual doctor next in the mail with a bit of a bummer, Steve.
I'm a theoretical physicist, not my words, the words of this theoretical physicist, and here's why life after death is impossible. It's the one US scientist has looked into it. Theoretical physicist Sean Carroll says that there's no way, basically it's information theory, there's no way that the information that's in your head that makes you who you think you are could end up anywhere else. There's protons, electrons and neutrons. I mean, in the Standard Model there's some other stuff as well, but there's no way that this can any way kind of connect to an afterlife. You can use thermodynamics to point out why ghosts can't even be a thing. None of this makes a difference because people who believe enjoy believing in spite of evidence.
OK, so this is sort of good news in that when Lewis dies, he will 100% be dead. Is that what you're saying?
I don't...
He will only continue and live on in his calendars.
There'll be a Higgs boson going around going like, oh, have you seen... Talk about me. That's
fine.
Well, the thing is, Steve, you might be right, but the fact is that anybody who says, I'm a theoretical physicist, I want to be careful with the word that I use. Can I say the word TWIST? No, I can't say that word. Is a W-A-N.
No.
I can't say that word.
You're a really good speller. I didn't know that about you.
He's an idiot. Can I say the word idiot?
Yeah, you say idiot. Yeah.
Anybody who's a physicist is an idiot.
Thank you for the Lewis Schaefer input there. The Guardian now, what do you make of this, big dog?
Big dog. Hey, the nickname. Act early to stop it catching on, etiquette experts say. And it says if someone calls you, I never had that problem because I used to be called Big Rooster Schaefer. That was my nickname.
What was your nickname?
Big Rooster, but it wasn't rooster. It was the other shortened word for rooster.
Did someone see you in the shower?
No, it's like, what do you call an opposite of a hen?
Yeah,
Look, I know people online think you are one of those, but I defend you. I would never call you one of those to your face.
It was a joke about my private parts.
Okay, very good. I mean, what do you think of this, Steve? I mean, it seems to be like, if you don't want to be called a nickname, just ask people politely to not call you.
Don't call me Piggy. That's
but
what
then
that
there's the section that says, like, don't show that you're upset with it. You need to respond, mask irritation, be nonchalant, and then there's a bit here that pretend not to react if someone uses the nickname. That's the genius.
Okay.
They go, sorry, I thought you meant something.
Oh, whatever, Baldy. Right, moving more Guardian. To finish on with the best of British, Steve, very quickly.
These inventions, the Swikini and a self-cleaning path. It's a swimsuit bikini, the Swikini.
Yeah.
I thought you could swim in a bikini. I don't really wear them, so that's fine. There's a thing.
No, but let's say the Swikini more, because this is my favourite thing. If you're a bit overweight or whatever, it looks like you can see a midriff, but really it's covering it up.
Yeah. It's just an optical illusion.
OK, what's your favourite thing? Bob, tell us both. What's your favourite invention of it?
The path. So it's a self-cleaning path that if it detects dog muck on it, it can spray water. And it's an option if it waits for the dog to leave.
Lewis, in 5 seconds, tell me your favourite invention.
My father was a patent attorney. Did you know that? So
yes, I did know that. Yeah.
I actually patented or tried to patent.
OK, thank you so much for that input. The show is nearly over.
This was the worst show that I've ever
another quick
done.
look at Monday's front pages. I think it's the best one. Right, we're going to go with the Times. Hundreds of schools still in dark over safety fears. The Daily Mail, councils allow staff to work from the beach. The Guardian, school crisis, no extra cash for repairs, says Treasury. The Mirror, my promise to workers. Financial Times, Russia's banks propped up by Chinese cash after sanctions. And The Star, trick or heat. Those are your front pages. That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Steve N. Allen and Lewis Schaefer. I think this is the best show ever. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. when Lewis is going to return, maybe, with Paul Cox and Simon Evans in the hot seat. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Thank you for joining us and good night.
He hates me.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. I'm Jonathan Vautry here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. It is ending on a fairly fine note for many of us. A lot of clear intervals through the evening and overnight away from the far north of Scotland. That is going to remain a bit breezier and cloudier. Some mist and fog patches will form underneath those clear skies, particularly for eastern England, southeast England, but also Northern Ireland turning quite murky first thing on Monday morning. For most of us, though, it will be a fairly mild, warm start, temperatures around 14, 15 degrees Celsius in a lot of our towns and cities. Once that mist and fog does eventually clear its way off, Monday promises to be a pretty glorious day for many of us. A good swathe of sunshine for the vast majority of the UK. It will be a bit breezy around the West Country, gusty along some coastlines here, and always cloud lingering across the very